Hello and welcome back to the channel, folks. HeirofCarthage here, once again in Total War Warhammer 3, where we're going to be taking on another replay here. It's another 2v2, courtesy of Wicked, again, a longtime member of my community and awesome contributor. This one is going to be High Elves and the Ecstatic Legions of Slaanesh, taking on Krakadrak and the Blood Keepers. So it should be a fun matchup. We got a couple of our new Chaos factions in here. Who doesn't like it when we get the dwarves in here, and especially the dwarves of Krakadrak, led by none other than the crazy white dwarf himself, Brombrindle, and then the High Elves sporting their new shooty action. And boy, this is some shooty action. Tons of archers with light armor, archers, Sea Guard, a couple of rangers, and then just Illyrian Reavers, a Frostheart, and an Archmage. So a very interesting pick. If we look at the Archmage, I believe that is, Dwellers mixed with the Earthblood. And then for Slaanesh, we're going to have a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle. But I guess, you can pick whatever banner you want. This is actually just the Warriors of Chaos, right? And they've picked a Sorcerer Lord with more of Nurgle here, and we're going to see Stream of Corruption and Rancid Visitations. Now, Rancid Visitations means that you've eaten at a Nurgle restaurant, and you have to pay a Rancid Visitation to the bathroom, okay? Which is, of course, the result anytime you come into contact with Nurgle. Dragon Ogre Shaggoths, we've got some Hellstriders with Scourges here. Now remember, this is like a higher defense, like decent weapon strength. Should be very effective against skirmishers, but not a whole lot else. We've got some Marauder Great Weapons for some AP, and then just standard Marauders. This is a lot of really cheap units with a rather large army, and it's going to be brought against the Dwarves and Khorne, who tend to be smaller, more elite armies, and that's exactly what we see here. There is going to be a Master Engineer here supporting the Dwarves as well, and remember that it's going to be coming with the Smoke Bomb here, and the ability to do some buffs to nearby missile units. There's also a Fire Ring of Thori here, which is kind of like a tier-shaped attack. We've got an Organ Gun and a Cannon for range. That's going to be interesting. Organ Gun can cause quite a bit of damage to concentrated infantry formations, cavalry, and then the Cannon can pick at the larger characters from range as well. The Blood Keepers led by Valkia. Let's see, Valkia's got her Spear here, which is a nice ability, kind of a tier-shaped attack. And then we look at the rest of the troops here. Some Marauders of Khorne, going to be pretty good against anything unarmored. And then we're going to have some Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, a Blood Reaper, and if I'm looking here, the speed, it looks like probably a Juggernaut. No, this is a Shrine mount. It looks like they're mounted on the Shrine. And we're going to see the Hellblade and the stuff that comes with that. Could be on foot, but that seems a little bit fast for foot. We'll find out when we get there. Minotaurs of Khorne with great weapons. I don't remember if these took a price change along with the Beastmen, but I know that the Beastmen Minotaurs took a price change. Can be decent units, and then we got a Skull Crusher here too, which is another anti-large unit. So that's a lot of anti-large. They are definitely expecting some monsters. So anyway, let's see how this replay goes. I'll see you on the battlefield. All right, this map, Steppes of Isha, kind of has a choke area up here in the middle where it's going to really narrow down the fight, and both teams are going to be forced into some pretty close quarters combat. We take a look over here with the Dwarves and Khorne, which again is an interesting combination because the Khorne can make up for many of the things the Dwarves can't do, and vice versa, because the Dwarves, of course, hold some pretty serious range capability, whereas Khorne actually has some offensive melee capability, which is something the Dwarves don't really possess. Outside of hammers, we can see that artillery firing away. Here comes the organ guns. Ooh, those thunderers just lighting up the Marauders, and we've got a fight on the way here. Now, these Marauders of Khorne mixed up with the Iron Breakers. These guys they need to stop and light up the infantry here. They don't want to just go straight into combat. They really need to throw those charges. A little bit painful there. You definitely want to throw those charges. Let's see the fight unfolding here. The Thunderers under fire here. We got the Peak Gate Guard as well that I didn't call out earlier, so that is the Dwarves, one of their weapons. Let's see, a little bit of a flank action here. Got past the choke point. Moving up, the Skull Crushers are going to come in to try and put an end to that, and that will be a painfully powerful unit. These Minotaurs need to head off the Hellstriders, but they're headed towards this other fight. Those Hellstriders are getting clean around. There are still some Marauder Horsemen back here, though. That might be able to fend them off. And despite the armor and the shields, the Thunderers are starting to take some damage from this extreme number of High Elf archers. The melee attempt to break through here is not going great. The Khornate and Dwarf troops seem to be holding him. It was the Blood Reaper on his Harley Davidson here. Or the lawnmower, whatever we want to call it. We can see the 2 Ogre Shaggoths breaking through, though, and really going after Valkia. She's getting gooned by that Nurgle Lord, and that is putting some poison in there, making it really difficult for her to fight. She needs some help. Those Skull Crushers or some other units, look at that. Those Hellstriders got back here and did get to the artillery. Said that these things might be a worry when they got past that flank, and they are. That artillery was going to be absolutely crucial here into whittling down the numbers of High Elf archers. You can see the Archmage still flying around, and boy, this Ogre Goon Squad is a tough one. It is a tough one. You see the Blood whoa, Minotaur just got launched there. We do have some Skull Crushers, and we've got the Warriors with Halberds. That is, yeah, Minotaur Khorne that got launched out of there. If they could hold these Shaggoths in, they could certainly cause a tremendous amount of damage, but the Shaggoths are using their mass and kind of throwing themselves around. The Chaos Sorcerer got out of there. Those archers are going to be a big problem, and I don't know that the enemy has a good answer to them now, Red Team. But, I mean, look at the balance of power. It's still in favor of Red Team, at least at the moment. I'm just worried that all these archers, boy, they're going to slowly be chipping away at help. I say slowly. I mean, it might actually be kind of quick just because there's so many of them. And those Shaggoths and other units can still protect here. Grombrindle is kind of screeching into the enemy lines here. Now, he'll be okay for the most part, as long as he doesn't end up getting gooned by a couple of Shaggoths or something. He's a very powerful unit. Got the Corn Mower up in here, rolling through these Illyrian Reavers. Lot of arrow fire now rolling into the Blood Reaper and his motorcycle there. Hopefully he has some good Geico insurance. We're going to have the Frostheart Phoenix getting rid of the Thunders, and just kind of losses continue to mount for the range capability of the Red Team here. They did manage to hold on to just a couple of artillery pieces here, but their crew is mostly dead. They have got to get a target on some of these archers. Look at this position, though, here in the woods. Those archers will be fairly safe. We do have some damage on some of the archers, but I mean, this is going to be, I think, the critical part. We'll see. We'll see. The Cavalry for Khorne pushing on in now, and it's going to be countercharged by the Chaos Sorcerer and his Shaggoths. And now they're way behind enemy lines, and I imagine these archers are going to turn and start to fire in here. That's really not going to do any favors for Khorne. And what would otherwise be a pretty tough fight, I think it turns it against them. The Minotaurs have decent armor, but it's not fantastic. It's not fantastic, so they're definitely taking some damage. We're getting some units pretty hurt here. The Skull Crushers are taking a beating, the Minotaurs are taking a beating, and only one of the Shaggoths is really in any serious trouble. Second Minotaur rolling in, but again, now you're quite a long ways behind enemy lines. Nice block here by the Rangers to keep the Halberds out of that fight. They are desperately needed. That Reaper, though, helping to create a break for the Dwarves and Grombrindle, who can now push and start to try and put some pressure on those archers. In fact, there's a lot of infantry units that could push forward and try and bring the pressure on the archers. The Hellstrider came back. Looks like the artillery is KO'd, and the Master Engineer is helping to try and get rid of the Hellstrider. So that is a big loss. But they do still have the Marauder Horsemen. There is still some mobility left for the Red Team, so they can potentially get into some of these archers, as well as just pushing with the infantry until they try and back the enemy into the red line and give themselves an opportunity. I'm surprised these Rangers are holding out for this long against the Warriors. Rangers do get a bonus versus infantry, but they are very squishy. These Chaos Warriors with Halberds, there's still 52 units of them, so they might still KO the Rangers, but the Rangers probably really having to depend on that physical resistance to keep themselves going. You can still see Valkia in here fighting, and the Shrine, and there's a few Minotaurs with great weapons. Boy, those Shaggoths are really hanging on, and these archer shots are really starting to hurt, and you can see the power bar actually coming back to even. I think there's momentum in favor of the Elves at the moment. So a big push from the infantry, but that Frostheart Phoenix is going to make things annoying, and the Reavers are trying to do the same. And then look at this, the Mage throwing down, yep, boom, that is probably going to seal the deal for the green team. Yikes, that hurts. That Dwellers Below took a big chunk. Look at this expensive unit, the Peak Gate Guard, just getting absolutely shredded by archers. They do not have ammunition, and so just huge number of arrows here. And it's gonna turn things here. I mean, there was some mobility left, but it's like these Marauder Horsemen and other units just could not get into some of the archer units. And without being able to do that, it really ruins things for them. I mean, a nice job here for the most part. there's a lot of archers. That's a lot to micro, and I just want to take time for a moment here to appreciate this. I'm going to slow motion it. I don't have my telestration tools. Yeah, actually I do. I got the telestration tools turned on here. Look at the nice concave formation for the archers here. This is well done, because what that does is it creates a big-time pressure zone all through here, where these archers can put fire and even concentrated fire into anything in that zone. So very nice positioning. That's a lot of units to keep track of, and I think overall a really nice job keeping track of them and keeping them shooting and keeping their targets there, because that's a lot of work. So well done there. And it does pay off. The match archer fire is going to work, and the goon squad, interesting combination of Dragon Ogre Shaggoths and Nurgle. The poison stacking up with the Shaggoths' immense damage and power is a nice touch there. I think that it helps the Shaggoths be more effective whenever their targets are poisoned and are having a harder time fighting back. Yeah, interesting battle. Again, a pick by Wicked here. I think last time we saw 7 trebuchets. This time we saw an absolute mass archer play here, which in a 2v2 is probably a little more feasible because your teammate can help provide, again, some of the weaknesses that you leave yourselves open to whenever you take a very lopsided pick like this many range units. But yeah, it looks like Grombrindle going to be one of the last units left here, and he will be a pain in the butt, but left alone like this, he can be managed. He is unbreakable. So I can understand why they don't necessarily... Look, he flash-bombed these units, and Grombrindle is now outrunning Dragon Ogre Shaggoths, catching up to them. He doesn't have anti-large. He's still a tough customer. So going to bring in the Frostheart Phoenix, looks like, to help kind of chunk away at him. A lot of archer fire coming in. I think this is a better plan. Just pick away as much of his hit points as you can. The archers, he'll probably suffer army losses here soon, and you don't really have to sit there and throw your units at him. So yeah, not much left over here, just the Master Engineer, and he's about to give way. They're going to terror rout him. And again, that leaves only Grombrindle back here. Now, he is just crazy enough that he might, stand here and fight this regardless. Well, I mean, I guess he will because he's unbreakable, but he probably would anyway. Lots of friendly fire here. As Grombrindle is under huge archer fire, but I mean, it is definitely taking a toll on him. Oh, that is so many arrows. We'll get in closer and let you all see just how many arrows Grombrindle's taking. He is getting some really nice acupuncture there, courtesy of the elves. Some Ulthuan acupuncture clinic. He'll be a lot more stress-free in the coming days. Yikes. Boy, that is rough. If you're a High Elf player, though, you gotta love this. All those arrows floating up into the air and coming down towards your target. So, yeah, it's gonna pretty much be finished here. Grombrindle's gonna have to come in and face the might of these Shaggoths. One of the Shaggoths almost about to drop, though. No, I don't know if it'll quite drop at the end of the battle. Nope, it stayed up. So another fun replay. Appreciate Wicked sending this one in. Let's take a look at the stats here at the end. So the Archmage, that is a lot of value, and that had to pretty much mostly come from Dwellers Below. The Archmage may have done some damage in melee too, because I believe they had like an eagle or something that was helping them get around in the air and faster. But still, a nice value from the Archmage. The Phoenix, I think, was just more of like a holding tool, as was the Reavers and the Rangers. They're just kind of a holding tool so that the archers can do their work. Archers with light armor are pretty cheap, at least they are now especially, and so these guys hit their value. And then the standard archers, I think, are like 425 or something like that. They're also very cheap. So it doesn't take much to get value out of them, and so you're going to see a pretty solid value across the board for most of the Elven Archer units. Then for the Ecstatic Legions here, I mean, pretty good value here for the Sorcerer of Nurgle, and then really nice value for the Shaggoths, especially considering they ended up in a couple of dicey fights more than once against some very tough anti-large units from Khorne. And so they definitely helped pull their weight. I would expect one of the Hellstriders, yep, got pretty good value, and there it is right there. The infantry, of course, got shut down pretty hard in the face of the Dwarf and Khorne combination. I'm not surprised. Like, it was pretty light infantry coming up against some pretty heavy infantry, but they made up for it with a nice goon squad and a whole bunch of arrows. We take a look at Grombrindle. Had he been able to fight where he wanted to longer, I'm sure he could have done more. A lot of kills, but not a lot of value for the Peak Gate Guard. Same thing with the Ironbreaker, so a couple of very expensive units that just weren't really able to pay much back. The organ gun, you can see how many kills it was racking up, and that's why it was so important for this unit to stay alive, because it could have killed a tremendous number of archers if it was given the opportunity, and it just was not able to. And then the cannon over here and the thunderers. These thunderers would have been pretty important at helping to pick away that goon squad too, but they were too close to the archers, and the archers took them out. Take a look at Valkia here. She got some damage done, but she was in some tough fights the whole time. The Blood Crushers kind of roughly covered their value. Nothing amazing there. Same thing for the Minotaurs. They kind of covered their value. Nothing amazing. So, I mean, it's not an awful performance from them because they were in some pretty tough fights. So those units definitely, I don't think, underperformed by any means. Looking at Halberds, the Blood Reaper here. Nothing special on any of the other units there, but a fun battle nonetheless. So appreciate all the players here. Wicked, Geese, Mishka, and Relax. So appreciate all of them playing, and I will see you all soon with some more in Total War Warhammer 3. If you liked the video, make sure to go hit the like button, and if you want to comment, you can leave your thoughts here. Would you be prepared to take on this many archers from the High Elves? And then what would you have done differently if you were playing as Mishka and Relax? Do you think you could have turned this one around with the armies they had? Or, of course, feel free to talk about how you might have picked things differently. Always a fun time. HeirofCarthage signing out. I'll see you all soon.